You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Parking into the Locked On Cougs here, bringing on Christian Rao. Christian, host of PAC-12 Daily. Christian, I know you're a host of PAC-12 Daily, and so you may just tell me to buzz off. But I think this weekend you're going to see Oregon beat the doors off of Oregon State. To be fair to what I'm about to say, they did the exact same thing to the Big 12's Oklahoma State. Here's the big difference in that to me. Oklahoma State's about to make a lot more money this season. They got an expensive coach. They may fire him and pay his buyout. And I don't think Oregon State could do that with a Mike Gundy-sized contract buyout. I just don't. I don't think that the resources are thinner up there, even with the new Pac-12 coming and all the new things that are happening. I've got hypotheses on that too. But even with the new Pac-12 coming, does Oregon State need to look to get involved with someone like the Big 12? The ACC has West Coast teams now, which doesn't make any sense, but they do. Do they need to get out of this thing?
Need is an interesting word. I don't know if I would go to need. Would it benefit them? I could see in the short term, potentially, right? I have a lot of faith in this new Pac-12. So that's where I'm going here. That's probably the closest to me saying buzz off as I'll actually go here. But I have a lot of faith in that new Pac-12. I think bringing in the schools, Boise State, Utah State, Texas State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Gonzaga for hoops, I think can be really interesting and really fun for this new Pac-12. It has good branding. And then you also have to remember that Oregon State and Washington State were the founding members of this new team. They were instrumental in architecting this new Pac-12, which kind of pushes away any thoughts of going to a different power conference. And I don't think there's ever been an offer on the table, at least not in the latest, because of all those new things that has happened with the Pac-12. And I don't think that's something that's going to be. So when you're talking hypotheticals, it's hard for me to say, yes, they should move on. But could it benefit them in the short term if that was an option? Maybe, because I think the Pac-12 thing is going to be something that is a slow burn to making themselves hopefully potentially back into what is seen as a power conference. It's going to take a very long time for that to happen if it does. But I think if you're going to do it, it has to start with teams like Wazoo and like Oregon State.
We've talked firing Coach Bray up and down, so we don't need to break that down too much more. But I do think it's interesting because, look, I just don't remember them being this uncompetitive in the Pac-12. When the Pac-12 was a Power 5 conference, they felt like they were they had to quit the Rogers brothers. They'd upset Oregon every now and then. Like they were constantly in the 8-9 win area. It felt like, and maybe that's just me misremembering things or misdiagnosing things, because Houston was in the group of 5 back then, and I'm about to say group of 6. They were in the group of 5 back then, and building towards a Big 12 invite ultimately. But I just don't remember it looking like this, and I feel like a big part of that is them getting left out of all that realignment a couple years ago.
Yeah, and it could be for sure. I mean, you're also seeing it not be super beneficial for teams that have went to the ACC from that old Pac-12 and Stanford and Cal, right? And UCLA and the Big Ten hasn't really worked out so far, how far they fell, right? So I don't know if it's always greener on the other side as much as you'd like to think it is, because with this new realignment of college football, some conferences are probably going to fall apart. I think the Pac-12, with how they're building this new conference back up, I actually think they're in good shape compared to a couple other conferences, like potentially the ACC. I don't know if the ACC is in good spots in comparison to the new Pac-12 because of some of the media deals that are going here. I like to point at in the Oregon State world of realm of why they're not successful. It all started when Trent Bray was promoted, and I wouldn't say all started, but it definitely enhanced. But not not because of Trent Bray. I think Trent Bray is an excellent defensive mastermind. I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators that Oregon State has ever had. Maybe just not head coach material. And there's multiple players, multiple people in this program across the country in the history of college football that we can put that on that list that are great coordinators. But when Jonathan Smith left Oregon State to go to Michigan State, in 2023, at the end of 2023, I think that's when it really changed and a lot of issues started with this program.
Well, and to Bray's credit, as a defensive guy, I saw on offense that Malik Murphy was the multi-time transfer, Hankerson transferred from Colorado, and I was like, oh, who's the defensive guy like that? they returned or originally had. Like, this is not a transfer built defense by any stretch. Guys that play for him like playing for him, it looks like, just based on the fact that they stay even after things like the Pac-12 falling apart initially, right? And I look at like, well, then what else could it be, and wonder if it is conference realignment, or maybe it's just a blip. Maybe the new Pac-12 revives the entire thing. But obviously, the Big 12 is always open for business, and it invites the question. So we've heard. And so it opens the door to all of that. Christian, you host a lot of things, but Pac-12 Daily is a show that is relatively new and covering this entire conference kind of before it even starts, really. What's going on in a busy world that is the Pac-12?
Yeah, July 2026 is officially when the new Pac-12 starts, but I didn't want to wait around. I wanted to cover these new teams with the 8 new college football teams, plus Gonzaga, plus Dallas Baptist, DBU going to be there for baseball as well. I know we're talking in a Texas show. I didn't forget about them. There's a lot of exciting things to talk about with this new conference, and there's some very rabid and amazing fan bases out here on the West Coast and in the Midwest, if you will, with some of these teams as well. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening with this conference, with the new changes of realignment. There just wasn't enough coverage, and I want to make sure that they were getting talked about. And that's exactly what we do daily on the Pac-12 Daily.
I have said for a minute now that if Houston fans were going to make one road trip this season, Corvallis is the place to go because it's unique, it's new, it's different. You don't know what's going to happen again. If any Cougar fans heading up there a week from now, any recommendations before we get out of here?
Oh, man, Corvallis is a really nice spot. I mean, just enjoy it the way you can. There's always really good weather when you get to it, at least right now. Like, you haven't got to the little too far in the fall, so just enjoy it the way you can, because Corvallis, Eugene and Corvallis are really nice spots in Oregon. But, of course, talking about the Beavers here, yeah, check it out for sure.
Head up to Corvallis. If you can't, we'll be breaking things down here all week long leading up to the game and live afterwards. It's a late kickoff in the state of Texas, actually. It's like 9:30 local time. But we'll be up late talking about it. Probably have a few
Pac-12
coffee a couple of times. Yeah, Pac-12 after dark in a lot of ways. This has been Locked On Cougs. That's your Christian Rao of Pac-12 Daily. Thank you again for listening each and every day. For a second listen, go check out Locked On Big 12. Listen to Drake talk about cavities, and not the kind you get fixed at the dentist. Today, Locked On Cougs, Locked On Podcast. I'm your team every day. Go Cougs.